This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
I am very excited to talk to you about this whole evolution of acting coming from an acting family. So your dad was an actor, your sister was an actor. What did it feel like there was anything else other than for you to be an actor? I would love to know the beginning of how this came to be for you, Michelle.
My parents were both actors. They met on stage together. My father was part of the founding company of John Cassavetes. I'm sure people know who John Cassavetes is. I hope they do. If they don't, you guys should look him up. There's a famous movie called Shadows that my father was a lead in. Gina Rowlands is John Cassavetes' wife. Nick Cassavetes is John Cassavetes' son.
Yeah.
And my father's Black, my mother's white. When the three girls were born, I'm the daughter, the last of the three. My parents realized that somebody needed to have a steady income. So my mother started working for health and education for New York City, had a real job. When I went to college, my mother went to college and she got her dissertation, became a psychologist, and she's 92 years old and still has her own private practice. My two sisters were both actors. I've been actors. My eldest sister teaches acting at City College in New York, as well as a stage combat choreographer and an intimacy coordinator. My second sister, Adrienne Hurd, as well as an actress, has been on Broadway, has done many commercials and been on television. And she's also the premier master Horton teacher at Alvin Ailey. She was in the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, been choreographed on by Alvin Ailey, as well as in the Judith Jamison Company and choreographed on by Judith Jamison. Jamison has said that Adrienne was her muse. So my entire life, I've witnessed my family on stage. My father was also one of the first Black baritone opera singers in New York City. So I've always known acting. It's been part of my life. And I've always thought of it as not only do I love artists and acting, but I've always known that it's a business. I've never thought of it anything other than that. It's a true vocation. I honor artists as a true art form. It's a sacred art form. It's what connects us all as human beings. It's what's going to save us in the end.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, I think I love artists and I love when we indulge in artistry, but we always have to remember that it's a business and we should never fall short of that. When we get all fruity and forget that it's a business, we do ourselves a disservice and we belittle our profession. So always remember that this is a respectable vocation and we should always demand our worth and never sacrifice our worth for our art.
That's why I voted for you, and that's why I'm so glad that you're Secretary of SAG right now. Thank you for your service and just getting to study your last few decades of rising. So let's start in the beginning. So you were already were you already auditioning for off-Broadway once you came out of college? You were growing up in the theater. So I would love to know the first few auditions of somebody who has the lineage of being backstage. Was it even a big deal for you to go and audition? Do you even get nerves early on in this career? Start stage.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker, so theater has always been in my life. I've always done stage. When I got out of college, I went to Boston University School for Theater Arts. And to me, I felt like when I got out of college, I was emancipated. I was really excited to be in the professional world. I thought that now I had the opportunity, as I said, to earn a living as an artist. I'm a terrible waiter and I'm a terrible temp artist. So I think I did one day as a temp, as a receptionist, and the temp agency that I registered with got a call from the agency that I did a temp job, and they said, never send her out because she doesn't know what she's doing. So I only could earn my living as an artist. And I have to say, I'm proud of myself, shoulder a pat on my back. Since I got out of college, I've only supported myself through acting. I've never had any other job ever. And I started doing stage work as soon as I got out of college. And I did the old fashioned, I've been doing this for 3 decades, so I'm old school. I had backstage back in the day where newspaper, and you look at the open calls and you just go to the open calls, get there early, get in line, get a number, go to a cattle call, do your audition, know your work, do the work, know your monologues, know your scenes, get your work, be comfortable on stage, get comfortable with rejection, doesn't matter. Just get comfortable with walking into an audition room. Know that they're lucky to have you in that space. Do no paying theater gigs, do stage readings, do poetry readings, just get your legs on stage. I love doing stage work. I love it. And I knew that that this is a business that I needed to earn a living. Again, I'm not good at doing anything other than art. So I knew, and I also know insurance is really important. So I started to figure out, how do I do that within my art? I did background work because that was where he made money. So I did a lot of background work in New York City, did a lot of film background works on films and television shows, and so much so that the ADs and PAs knew who I was. And there was a moment where I was doing King of New York, as I date myself. And one of the actors who was supposed to play Roger Smith's wife didn't show up. And an AD knew who I was and looked at me and said, Michelle, come here, and literally upgraded me to the wife of Roger Smith. And like there, I all of a sudden was now a semi-principal actor. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, okay, so this is cool. And I just started to get more speaking roles. And from that, I also knew that, again, I needed money. I always say I needed money to support my non-paying theater habit, because I would literally get a phone call for a play and I go, yes. And I hang up and I'm like, oh, shit, it's not getting paid again. Oh, I got to get paid. So I also started to realize that commercial work was a way to get income. And I'm old school. I study things, right? So I wanted to get voiceovers and I wanted to get commercials. So I watched commercials. And I looked to see what it is that they're looking for to cast in a commercial. If I'm doing a medical commercial, like what is it that Pfizer is looking for? If you're doing a car commercial, what are they looking for in a car commercial? If you're doing a cereal commercial, what are they looking for in the cereal commercial? I wanted to do voiceovers. What are they listening to for voiceovers? And voiceovers are cyclical. It's not always the same. Sometimes they want a mother sounding voice. Sometimes they want a quirky voice. They want a textured voice. Sometimes they want a clear voice. Sometimes they want a rich voice. So you have to listen, you have to hear, and you do your work. So that makes it easier for them to cast you. So I got really into that. There was a period of time where you couldn't turn a channel without my voice being as a commercial on commercials. Then I got into doing soap operas because I wanted to get on camera, and I wanted to learn how to do that. And New York at the time we were really blessed because we had so many soap operas there. And I got a job on Another World, and I was on Another World for a few years. And then, because I'm gluttonous as an actor, I'm gluttonous. I want it all. I don't understand when people are like, oh, I'm only this, or I only do sitcom. I'm an artist. I want to do all. I want to do all. And so I got on the soap opera and I was really happy. And then I wanted to do what's over there. Where's sitcoms? I've never done a sitcom. I want to try a sitcom. And so I started again. I did my homework. I started to look at what is sitcom? What's the rhythm of a sitcom? What's the dynamic of a sitcom? It's a dynamic. I always talk about theater, right? Theater, Shakespeare, Mamet. Those are all genres. They're very specific. I wouldn't audition for Mamet the same way I would audition for Shakespeare, right? They're very specific genres. It's the same thing when you audition for television shows. A sitcom is very different than an hour long. And I'll get even more specific. A network show, ABC, CBS, NBC, those are all three different tones. So I wouldn't audition for an NBC show the same that I would audition for a CW show. Very different. And I want to empower actors. You can empower yourselves by just doing your work. If you did your work as an actor, as a theater actor, you're loaded with information, right? So if I'm doing Shakespeare, I have his whole canon to understand how he writes. I know how he has characters that are specific, and I know that there'll always be callbacks, right? So I have Shakespeare's work of art. I can still do that in our television and film world. Television, I can track down what CW shows are like. I can see what NBC shows are like. Same with film. I can see what a Christopher Nolan film is like, what an Oliver Stone film is like. Those are tonalities. That's giving me information. So I know that when I go for that kind of an audition, I can adjust myself. I'm informed. I can inform my performance. And this is just what loads us as actors. And I got to say, that's fun.
That is fun. Yeah. And then are you coaching or going to any type of studio to get into a technique, or are you mastering that on your own by, like you said, by studying? Because I do think it's very interesting, people that are very instinctual, people that are auditory. You're an auditory learner, it sounds like, right? As well, that you're like, oh, it sounds like this. I can make my instrument sound like that. So is this all self-taught, Michelle, from like years of studying this? And how do you tangibly take some of this information and then put it into an audition. And you can use I was going to ask you everything, just so our audience knows, like the amount of off-Broadway into Broadway credits that you have. You did do Othello and Hamlet, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I love that you met your husband on stage, and that's going to come full circle later as well.
Yeah.
So I would love to just get a little bit more tangible in some of the beautiful things that you're sharing right now, even if it's because so many actors write in on the show, going from stage to television. So maybe if you even want to talk me through that transition for you, because you jumped right off really quickly.
Yeah. First of all, I love training. I love schooling. The more information, the more tools that you give yourself is powerful. That's just the way it is. And I always joke that it's like physical fitness or like your body. It would be like as if I worked out and I was like, I am done. This is it. I am perfect. I should never have to
I
work
have
out
the
again.
abs, they'll stay forever.
This is done. It doesn't work that way. You have to continue. And to me, it's the same thing as acting. Before I went to college, because I grew up in Westbeth artist housing. Literally, arts is in my entire everyday breath.
Yeah.
But I grew up in artist housing where you walk through the halls of Westbeth and you'll hear opera singers and you'll see painters with easels in the hallways. You'll see ballet dancers practicing. So arts is all there. And across the street from Westbeth is HB Studios, where you have Hagen, Stella Adler, all the kind of techniques. And so I studied that before I even went to college and in the summertime. I also studied at the National Theatre of Great Britain training program in the summertime when I went to college. When you go to Boston University School for Theatre Arts, they give you a whole bunch of different styles and techniques. You get Stanislavski, you get all of the things. Now, I always tell actors that when you learn these different techniques, they are acting technique tools. They're tools. They're all just tools. And you put them in your trunk. You put them in your closet. They're all different things to help you when you're exploring characters. You don't have to be like, I am a Meisner person. I am a method person. You can. You absolutely can. But it's also cool that you can have all of those at your access, so that when I'm working on a character, and I'm having some kind of maybe having a difficulty, I'm not being able to tap in, I can open up that closet door and I can try and pull on a technique and I can tap into this one. Oh, this is more of a beats and units. Oh, this one I have to grab into a method sort of thing. This one I need a beats and unit. This one I need repetitiveness. This is one I need Meisner. So you really want to have a cachet of all these sort of tools and techniques, and it's techniques, they're tools. It drives me crazy when people sometimes bastardized like things like the method. I worked with Tony Greco, who was Lee Strasberg's protege in the method. And method is a technique. It's a technique. It's not something that you're like, I'm going to stay up all night long because my character stayed up all night long. It's a technique. My husband plays terrible, scary characters often. He's not going to go out and kill someone because his character is a murderer. We don't do that. It's a technique. And you want to have that technique because you should be able to play a very dark character and then stop.
Exactly.
And
come home and
have a nice day with your people that you love. It's self-preservation. It's very important. It's very important to have self-preservation and separate that. If you think about SVU, Law and Order.
I was going to ask.
That's sex crimes. That's a very dark thing. And we dealt and talked with actual sex crime detectives, and they will tell you that they have to separate that. They have to do their work for their victims. They have to do their work, but then they have to go home, and they can't bring that home. As an actor, you have to do the same. I have to be as true to my character and as authentic as I can to my character, but it's my character. It's not me. It's my character. And it's a beautiful thing to go, wow, geez, wow, that is amazing. I want to be able to have that objectivity in a step way and trust. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always going to be those moments where you bleed into it, where you take it home, where you're just like, it hurts, your heart breaks, you cry, you feel all the feelings. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But I'm an actor, and that's a character that's separate from myself.
To take it off.
Yes. And that's where the safety, the power, and the beauty of a technique comes in handy. That's your safe. That's your lifesaver.
Okay, so then let's talk technique. And I want to talk Law and Order first.
Sure.
I know it was some time ago, but
25 years ago.
I know, but my gosh, it starts a beautiful career. You already had a stunning career, but let's talk going from stage and then going and auditioning for Law and Order SVU. And let's use technique. Like, let's talk about technique, because what you need on stage You don't need it for Law
Yeah.
and Order. So
Yeah.
what was your approach? Do you remember that audition?
It's interesting because you would think that I would remember the audition. I actually worked for Dick Wolf before.
Yes,
So I'd actually
with the
done,
OG Law and Order.
oh,
And I was
yeah,
going to
and
say,
even
were they
and even
connected
before that,
even before that?
yeah. So
Which
New
one
York
before that?
Undercover. So New York
Ah,
Undercover. So I did
okay.
New York Undercover before that. So Dick knew me from that. I did New York Undercover. I did something called Players. I
Mhm.
did something called New York News with Mary Tyler Moore
Yes.
and Joe Morgan. So I'd actually been a Dick Wolf child. So not a child, a Dick Wolf player. I was in LA. And then, of course, I did Law and Order Mothership, where I was a little
Yeah.
murderer. Then I
Mhm.
was in LA and I was shooting a pilot called Action with Jay Moore and a totally different show. And then I actually was called by Dick Wolf people. And he said, I got this idea of this character that I want to add to SVU. Think of it as somebody that's going to it'll blossom later in the series. So they were shooting that the episode, the first episode, and he asked if I would come on and do that. And of course, since I'm a New Yorker, I was shooting in LA doing this thing, and I was like, New York, I'm going to shoot in New York, NBC in my backyard. Shit, I'm jumping over there. So it wasn't actually an audition. I was actually already in his stable.
Work begets work. That's what I talk about all the
Work
time on
begets
here.
work.
And I usually love finding the threads. That's why I saw your OG Law and Order, and I was like, that probably has something to do with it.
Yep, yep,
Great.
yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
then I want
And
to
that's
ask
also, by the way, that's a really important thing is that your work begets work. It absolutely does. And
all the time.
the only thing I feel a little sad about this stage of acting in the streaming kind of world is back in the day, we really got to make relationships with our casting directors.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of my jobs were because my casting directors know who I am and called me in. And I know some of our young actors don't get as much of a personal connection with our casting directors, but I do want to encourage you, all of our young actors, that when you get an audition, just when you get an audition in general, even though it's through a self-tape, don't necessarily think of getting that audition, but
Mhm.
think of introducing yourself as an artist to the person who's seeing the audition so
Yes.
that whether you get that audition or not, it's secondary. You want the person who's seeing that tape to remember you, to just
Mhm.
go, oh, this one, not. But you know what? That
Yes.
kind of that girl lady with the low voice and the curly hair. I'm gonna remember this one because that's the way you get. That's longevity. That's how you stay in
True.
this industry because that casting director or producer will remember you for the next job because that's longevity, and you do that by doing your work. By
That's what I
doing
call planting the seeds. Like
right.
really, especially with self-tapes now, I tell all of the actors that I also mentor, if you get called back into that office, that is your win and your validation loop
When
has been closed. That's
that's
it.
right. That's it. That's
Onward,
it.
it might be another 10, 12 years before you book
But that's
that
okay.
office. But okay, so then I want to ask a business question
Yeah,
because you are so business minded and I love this.
have to be.
Walk me through the decision to leave Law and Order SVU and go and do Leap Year. Now, I know your
Mhm.
husband's also doing this show.
Yeah.
So I want to know the whole inside working. Did he get on the show and then pulled you in? Were you like,
Mhm.
what is the decision to, because as we start to work as actors, you'll start to have choices and then you have a luxury of choice. And how do you make those choices? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we can't necessarily depend on our team to help us make those choices. They want dollar signs.
Yeah.
You're steering the ship.
Yeah. I'd love to say that I steered that ship. I did not steer that ship. This is the dark, the good, the bad, the ugly of our
Yep.
industry. That was SVU. I wasn't necessarily a known name and
Mhm.
all truth. And I don't want to speak ill of anything, but there was an actor who wanted to have a more of a famous partner on that show.
Got it.
And
Mhm.
so I was the casualty. And so that's what happens. I wasn't a star and Ice-T was more of a star. And so that's what happens. And here's the thing, everybody. It's okay. You can get replaced, you can be let go.
Could be fired.
You can be
Yep.
fired. I've done pilots where, and Garrett, my husband, has done it too, where we have actually been hired in a part that our friends have had, and then they've been let go, and vice versa. And it's icky and weird and strange, and you find out after, and it's really weird. But this is this industry, and the dark part of our industry is that there's no loyalty. There's also, it's not personal.
That's what I was going to say. It's really not
It's not
personal, not how
personal.
we want to make it personal
It's
at
really
the end
not.
of the day. Yeah.
Because I'm a New Yorker, my sister and I at one point when we had, because we're New Yorkers, we had dinner with Bobby De Niro. And I remember he said to us at one point, he said, it's never your job. It's never really your job until you actually see yourself on screen, because you could think it's your job, and it could be actually offered to your job, but then like a producer could see you and say, that person reminds me of my ex, or a producer could come and say, you know what, my ex wants the job. So there's so many factors that can happen. And you got to remember that. You got to and it's really hard because art is our heart, but you got to, and I don't want to say harden or steel yourself, because that's not fun. And I want us to always let our heart thrive and be open. But I always say self-preservation. You have to remember and be business oriented and always remember. A perfect example is like my husband produced and was the star of a show with Greg Garcia called Sprung. Greg Garcia also created Raising Hope, and my husband was on that with Martha Plimpton. It's a great show. Greg Garcia also did My Name is Earl, a bunch of shows. During COVID, they decided to do Sprung, and my husband was one of the executive producers. So I was privy to him casting some of the parts. Because it was COVID, it was all on Zoom, and because he's my
You're
husband,
home, you're getting to see, yeah.
I was just sitting there and looking over his shoulder, and I could see the auditions. It was nothing non-kosher here. It was all fine. And what I loved, and I want actors to hear this, what I loved was there was no bad actor. There was no bad actor. There was no bad actor. Everybody offers something beautiful. Everybody offers something beautiful. It's no bad actor. It's the picture. It's the landscape. It's just the whole landscape. And you have this little
piece right here. We have to fit the rest of the puzzle.
This piece here, and this little puzzle here, and this one here. It's like that. It's like an orchestra. So you have the violin is here, and the cello is here, and there's a trumpet here, and maybe there's two trumpets, and the trumpets, it doesn't fit. And so you need to actually have more violins. And that's literally it. There were things when I watched it, and I was like, oh, baby, oh my God, this guy is so good. He's so good. And they're like, yeah, it's not. Oh, this one's so good. You're so good. Yeah, but it's not. And it didn't matter. I'm watching someone from just from over here, and I think they're fantastic, but it doesn't fit. So I do want to, and I remind myself too, I want to empower our actors to understand when you do your audition and you killed it. You're like, I worked on this thing and I know I did good. I know I did good. And you really wanted. I bet you did. I bet you did. I know you did. I know you did. And you give yourself those flowers. You give yourself your flowers. And just know it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. Take yourself out to dinner.
I was just going to say, yes.
Buy yourself some flowers.
What's the thing that you do? What do you normally do when you kill the audition or have a great day on set? Do you and your husband have a tradition of, it's nice too to have a partner that's in it where you can be, I fucking killed today. I did great today. Yeah. It might not go my way, but do you have a tradition of something that allows you to release expectation?
Yeah, I have to say, when you're younger, it's really more important to do that. It really is, because you're young and you have to continue on. When you get older, you're a little saucy, you're a little jaded. Because I actually know the situation. And I think I'm just more, it's business. Yeah. It's just business. I just checked on, move on. You really have to move on. And what I find now is that I enjoy auditioning because I enjoy having the opportunity to explore a character. And sometimes I get to explore that character just for the 30 seconds that I put it on the tape.
Yep, that's so true. Or sometimes you get months or years.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
from scene study classes to audition classes,
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors,
a collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
to a working actor.
Okay, because it's called That One Audition, and I could pick through 3 decades of just You've been on every show.
I
You've
know.
been
It's
on
weird.
every show. You've been on every stage. You like, what movie genre have you not done? You've done it
I
all.
know. And I have to say, that's one of the things, and just for actors,
Yeah.
I did that for myself. There was a moment in time where I basically said, especially back in the golden times of television, I was like, I want to be on every network. I want to try different genres. And that was my little game that I played for myself, was just to keep it exciting for myself. I was like, what genre have I not done? What have I not done? And that's how I approached things, just to keep it
Well,
exciting.
even how you would say yes, because that was going to be one of my questions
Mm.
is, you didn't get typecast at all, Michelle. And that's a hard thing to not do, because once they see you do something really well, they're like, great, let's send her 75 offers to
Yeah.
play detective again. So how are you? So that is just the goal. When you're like, okay, I've been doing this for a little
Yeah.
bit, I need to switch over here. Do you ever have resistance in the switch or getting
Well,
casting to
yeah.
divert an idea of what they had?
I think it started from very early on because, as I've said, my father's black, my mother's white. I'm biracial. I'm not, I got
They
crazy
can't
hair.
they can't put you in a box.
They can't put me in box. I got this low voice. I'm not curvy. I've got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff
A lot of
that,
great stuff working for you. Yes.
did it. But I always used to say, I remember going into my very first interview with CESD, my commercial agency, and I remember my agent, and I could tell, I knew exactly what he was asking, but he was like, so Michelle, where do you find yourself? You know, where do you feel comfortable? And I knew what he was saying. I knew he wanted me to say, do I feel black or whatever, but I didn't want to help him out. I was like, what do you mean? What are you asking? What do you want? What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. And I was trying to push him just because. And finally I said, oh, you want to know where you think you should cast me? And I said, oh, yeah, yeah. Anybody who has words to say. And that's the thing, because you want to go, I'm an actor, I'm an
Yes.
artist. And I said, you know
Yep.
what? If it's an Asian male, put me in for that. And that's the concept that I basically told all my agents, is that if you put me in for just this one type, I'm not going to get it, because I'm not one type. I'm bigger than that. And this, this is not easy to figure out. You can't really write this in a paragraph. This is hard to digest. You have to give me a little bit more for me to sell all of this. It's a bit more complicated and a bit more layered. My people know that, my cast, and that was where the relationship with casting directors came in really key, because they could, once I got to know them and they got to know me, they go, oh, you know what? I got a crazy idea for this character. It's not written, but Michelle Hurd, if Michelle Hurd comes in, I bet you she's going to do something with it. She's going to do something. And then, and that's right. And then at the same time, within that world, I also got really stubborn. And I always said, if there's a character and it's a choice between wearing heels or carrying a gun, I'll take the gun every time, because I'm not interested in being the pretty thing, being the, I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Characters that are written for men, and I've gotten parts that were written for men and then they change it to women. Every single time when it's written for men, they think more, they have more
Bravado.
complicated conversations, dialogue. It's quite rude and very frustrating. I was always more attracted to strong, flawed. I love flawed. I love complicated people who fail and have to pick themselves up, and just complicated people, as opposed to, and I get it. And I love all young, beautiful ingenues. I get it. Off you go, happy joy. But just know there will always be someone younger and prettier.
100%.
Always.
That train comes to an end.
Always. Oh, like quick.
Yep.
Like quick.
Very quick.
Right there. Right there. You want to give yourself a lot more to
play with.
Yes,
to explore. And
more.
I think that challenging your team to do that, depending on how you look
Yes.
versus how you show up. I always advised, it took me 20 years to let my team get to know me.
Yeah.
And now I'm working more because my team knows me and knows where to push and sell and broaden Caston's horizons.
Because you're more than just what you look like. You're more.
Yeah, you have to give so much more.
And especially women, you guys, we become so much more like wine, the whole thing. We are so much more than just
I know. And thank God the industry is catching up, because I love everybody on prime time right now.
Yes.
And in streamers.
Yep.
50, 60-year-old women helming those
fabulous.
And that's exactly what it needs to be. Because I remember when I started 20 years ago, I was like, oh God, I'm going to fall off a cliff here in 5 years and there's going to be
Exactly.
nothing left.
Yeah.
Okay, so of all the things, what is that one audition for you?
Oh
What
my goodness.
is there one that like when I say that you're like, oh yeah, this one?
It's such a hard question
It
because
is.
it really is, because I just love what I do, and I love every question, every audition. I always tell actors that it doesn't matter what audition it is or what part it is, you should always think of yourself as number one on the call sheet.
I love this.
Always.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is that you're auditioning for or what role it is. You should always give yourself that respect. So every time I've ever gone into any kind of a thing, I've always given myself, it doesn't matter what everybody else is thinking, I've always given myself, yes, walk into that room and you give yourself that respect. You believe in yourself that much. And even if it's just 5 lines, just
They have a full life.
Yes,
So
they have a
only
full
say-
life.
Yes.
They have a
Yeah.
full life. And there's been so many different interesting ones. I loved Blindspot. I just come back from spending 5 months in New Zealand doing Ash versus Evil Dead, and which was super fun. That was another genre that I'd never done. And I loved Bruce Campbell, was awesome to work with. That was all tactical special effects. There was no special effects. It was all like a PA throwing blood on you, and it was fantastic. It was all real stuff. And I remember I just got back. It was like the next day, and a Blindspot, they had called and they were just like, oh, we have this audition and put these 3 scenes down or something. It was like next day. And I was like, what? God damn it. What?
Yeah.
Damn it. I was so annoyed because I was just back, and this all these pages. And I remember I knew the casting director. And I called the casting director, asked, and I said, what is this? I've never watched the show. Can you give me something, anything? And I remember them saying something like something, the direction was something like a she-wolf, like a she-wolf. And I just remember it's something simple like that. And I got off the one and I thought, she-wolf. I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, so somebody who's very strong, but also has this maternal protectiveness, will defend her cubs to the death, but is also a really protective thing. And that's all I took. That's what I took. And I did that audition and I got it. I remember doing Picard, Star Trek. I was going to have foot surgery, and I didn't tell my agents. You don't tell your agents. You're like, you don't tell anybody, whatever. It's so stupid. And I was in New York. It was like 9:30 at night. Obviously, I got somebody in LA sent a next day audition, self-tape, 14 pages. It was 6:30 here, 9:30 there. And I get this thing, my email. So I was like, you got to be crazy. I first was like, nope, not even gonna look at it. I was like, be a good actor, Bunny, Michelle, pay attention. And I looked at the producers and I saw like Michael Chabon, Akiva Goldsman, Alex Kurtzman, Patrick Stewart. Wait a second, what's going on here? And then I read the character breakdown, and the character breakdown was so good. It was just complicated and flawed, which I love. And I called my manager and I said, Tina, look, I'm having surgery tomorrow on my foot. Is there any way that we can just and it was Wednesday night, so Thursday, is there any way that I can get it in Monday so I can have the weekend? She said, sure, no problem. I was like, cool. Thursday, I have my surgery. I get home. Thursday evening, I get this email. Hey, so sorry, honey, but they're really going to need it in by the end of the day tomorrow. She said surgery on my foot. And I'm just like, 14 pages. And I know it's Star Trek. They don't say it's Star Trek because it's got.
I was going to say they're saying it's something else.
It was like royal flush or something like that.
Yep.
And so I'm just like, and I basically ingest 14 pages. I just ingest 14 pages.
Well, and tangibly, other than reading it, toolbox we talked about, your toolbox, you just ride the bike. You might not even know how you get there.
That's right.
Was there anything that you pulled out of there to be like, okay, I'm going to use this?
No, this is the thing. So I ingest it. I know what it is I'm saying, why I'm saying it, who I'm saying it to, and who I am in just these 14 pages. I don't have anything else. So I am going to make decisions. From 14 pages, I'm going to make a decision of who I am and why I'm saying what it is I'm saying. That's it. I'm going to make that decision. I wean myself off the painkillers because I have to.
Yeah.
And then this is a classic.
Everything's right here.
I got like my foot in a cast over here. It's like ridiculous. And this is the part that I want people to understand. I did 2 takes. First take, I really liked the beginning and I just didn't like the end. Second take, I didn't like the beginning, but I liked the end. And it's Friday night. I got to get it in. I surgery. I'm whatever. My husband's baby. You want to take it? And I was like, you know what? I can't. I can't do anymore. I can't do anymore. It's Star Trek. There's no way I'm going to get this. It's 14 pages. Just send it. Just send it. There's no perfect take. I didn't give them a perfect take. I didn't give them a
Did you give them both scenes?
I gave them both scenes.
Oh, great.
I gave them both scenes. I said, just send it. They offered me the part. They offered me the part. When I got on set, I remember asking Michael Chabon, I think it was Michael or Akiva, and saying, well, you know,
Well, yeah.
how? And they said, because you told us who Raffi was. Because you told us who Raffi was. And I want actors to hear that, because I did not do a perfect take.
Yeah.
I didn't do a perfect take.
Don't you also agree with this? I think after doing this for so long and also watching other people's tapes, watching just documentaries, I think are the best things to actually watch for
Documentary's
acting.
great.
But it's when the person loses the line. It's when they flub. It's when it's not perfect that we all lean in.
Yeah.
We get to see us, you.
Like an authentic moment.
A moment come in, and it does. And I love Patricia Clarkson always talks about this.
Patricia,
where she's just, it's not, I'm not giving you a performance. We're a collab. We're still discovering who this is in this moment, in this audition process. But now with self-tapes, I feel like everybody's like, I got to get it perfect. Let me look at my perfect tape. And when anybody says, I did a perfect tape, I'm like, you're not getting it, honey.
You're not getting it. And that's another thing. Like, if you think about, you know, what exactly would that mean, a perfect take? Like, another example.
You did exactly what was written. Exactly.
Right. And another example to amplify what that kind of means about what we're trying to say is Romeo and Juliet, right? Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. It's been around for centuries, right? Centuries. Everybody goes to see Romeo and Juliet. Everybody goes to see Hamlet. Everybody goes to see these Shakespeare plays. They don't go to see it because someone says, oh, in this new Hamlet, he doesn't die, he lives. Oh, in this new Romeo and Juliet, Romeo doesn't kill himself. They get a condo and they're fabulous. They don't do that. They go because they want to see what this artist's experience is going to bring to this production. I want to see how this actor, this person's life experience enlivens Hamlet. I want to see what this actress, how she brings Juliet's love alive, how she takes that moment when Romeo comes to her. I want to see how they experience it. That's the whole thing. So when you and I get the same exact script, that's why I love telling other actors when I get an audition, I'm like, oh, I got to call Anjanu. I got to tell Susan. I love telling my actors about auditions. Me too. Because it doesn't.
We're all going to be different. No.
It's going to be this. We're going to be. I want you to, if I don't get it, I want you to get it, God damn it. Yes, I want you to get it. Because you and I are going to have the different experiences, and we're going to convey our different perspectives. And that right there, our individual perspectives, our unique points of view, that right there is the most authentic thing that we can bring to every different part. Yes. Our very own voices. So whenever you get your auditions, you read that script, you read that side, you read it, you take your first thing and then go and then stop. Look again and go, wait a second. Let me look at this again, because I just did the generic one. I just looked at it and generically looked at it. Let me look at this again. Let me see what else can I see in this? My husband is he's one of the most incredible actors I've ever experienced. I've ever had the glory of working with on stage and on film. And when I run lines with this man, he blows me away, because I look at the words on the sides. I don't even know where he comes up with the information. I'm looking at the words, but he comes up with this wellspring of ideas. And that's where, as artists and authentic perspectives, we just need to dig a little deeper, be a little braver, not so lazy, and be and have a little more fun. Have a little more fun.
Yeah, that's what I say. If you're having fun, we're having fun. You know, when people are like, oh, look at this audition. I'm like, why are you choking it? Why are you
Right.
choking it? When we used to
Right.
go in the room, you couldn't choke it so
Mhm.
much when you went in the room because you had
Yes.
people in which now with the self-taping, it is really hard to not get in that perfectionist loop of what do they want?
Right.
How do I do this? I need to do it
Right.
better over here. Let me do it 75 more times. I love that your
Wow.
audition story that you shared too was 2 takes.
Two takes.
When I start getting into 6, 7, 8, 9, I'm like, you're done, girl. This is not
Yeah.
yours. You're chasing
Yeah.
something else.
You're on the wheel. Then you're just
You're
spinning.
on
You're
the
spinning.
wheel. It
Yeah.
doesn't help. You've already given so much business sense,
Mm.
so much already, but I really do. I kind of want to ask a couple of questions regarding like you being of service for SAG. What made you
Mm.
decide to step in to start leading the charge and taking responsibility for other fellow
Mm.
actors? So
Yeah.
from a
Mm.
business standpoint, you working for a while, being like, okay, now I'm going to also do this.
Yeah.
What was the impetus for that?
And also, I would encourage everybody to volunteer to get involved in the union. It's
Yes.
really important. Two things. One, I'm a New Yorker, and New York, not only New York, but New York, there's a lot of co-ops, right?
Mhm.
Co-op apartments, whatever. And I don't know if people understand, but a co-op board, they basically can dictate what you can do with your apartment. Right. So if you bought into a co-op apartment, a co-op board can basically say you can't have wooden floors. You can't paint your walls this color. So if you had an apartment in a co-op board, it would behoove you to get on that co-op board because you would be like, oh
Right.
no, I'm going to have I'm going to have a say in what I can do with my apartment, right? To me, it's the same thing of being involved in the SAG-AFTRA board. I want to have a say in the
Yes.
contracts that I work. I want to have a say in the contracts that I work. I only got involved in the union because I think it was when I was doing a lot of commercials and there was a commercial strike. And I was like, what the heck's going on with the commercial strike? I need to understand what's going on with my contract because this is how I make my living. And so
Yes.
I basically was like, who does this? What's going on? Inquired. I think I went to some strikes. I went to some picket lines, asked, talked, and just got involved. And it's a little bit like the mafia. It's once you get in there, it's really hard to extricate yourself out of
Yeah.
it. I'm trying to. I would love to be out of it at this point, but
We need you.
I know it's really important work, and I value it. I love my actors. I love actors. I love this industry, and I fight for safer sets. I
Yes.
created a booklet called Nudity, Sex, Nudity, and You to talk about safety and your rights on sets when it comes to auditions and on set work on nudity and hyperexposed
Yes.
worse. And
And can I ask a couple of questions about
yes,
that? Because people write in
please.
about this all the time. Now that stuff is self-taped,
Yeah,
I 15 years ago had to go in for a show and it was a very popular show and I was very excited and wanted to be on it. But the scene called for a sexual encounter and it was in the middle of
hmm
the scene. So even in the room, I was uncomfortable doing what I needed to do for that role specifically. Now I left that room and whatever may happen with that tape, right? But at that point, we weren't really taping it. The producers were in the room, right? So they
yeah,
made the decision on that day to pin me, to put me on a veil check, and eventually get the role or not. Now, when we're doing self tapes
yeah.
and there is sexual context, how do you advise people to be taping on this? And then what are our rights as far as where does that tape go? Now I know it
Yeah.
goes to casting and then it goes to producers, but how can we entrust that now that tape doesn't go off into the
Right.
internet
Yeah. Yeah. Great
out
question.
of
First of all,
context?
yeah, no, do not ever put yourself on tape with anything that you are not comfortable with. Period. Period. I don't care what a casting director says. I don't even care what your agents, your managers say. In
Thank
fact,
you.
shame on them if they do that. In fact, report it to it. I'm the chair of the Sexual Harassment Convention Committee. Report it to me. Let me know, and I'll put SAG on them because they're not allowed to do that. Don't take your clothes off ever. Not on a self-tape and not in an audition room,
Mhm.
period. Period. In fact, we have a clause now. We have a clause that even if you wrote it, you got the job, say you got the job, and there's a scene that you have a sex scene in there.
Simulated sex, yeah.
A simulated sex. Thank you. Simulated sex. And that you wrote a writer that you said, okay, in this simulated sex, I'm going to show my boobs and I'm going to show my butt. And we get very specific areola, crack. We do
only the right cheek, not the left. Right cheek,
the whole thing, right? And you've agreed to it. You've actually agreed to it, right?
Yep.
Then you get into production and you're shooting and you realize that these producers are shady. You realize that the conversation that you had when you first got into this, that they seemed like they were really good, they're shady and I don't trust them. Do you know that now that even though you wrote that writer, you have the ability, you have the right 48 hours before that scene to say, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I take back saying that I will do this. You have to get a body double to do that. And the body double will only be able to do what I had previously agreed to. I will no longer allow you to do that with my body. So we have safeguards now. When it comes to auditions, when it comes to any of those things, if they say like first of all, first auditions, never. If there's second or third auditions and they say now, like maybe you're playing Josephine Baker or something that has to show a body, you only have to wear what you feel comfortable with. And that could be a cat suit. That could be a bathing suit. You never, please hear me, you never, ever should be naked on tape, period. There should never be a time where there is a recorded tape, video, whatever, of you without clothes on that will go anywhere, anywhere, to any casting, any producers, anything. That is illegal. And if anybody have ever done that, please contact us, give us names, give us dates in real time, It's so helpful if it's in real time, because then we can come down on them, bees on, you know what I'm saying? But this it's really important. It's one of the things that I'm tirelessly trying to fight for is to protect my artists.
And I wanted the audience to hear that. I say it a lot, but I think coming from somebody who's on the board of exactly what needs to happen in these, because I've found myself in all precarious situations. I've walked off set before. I've been screamed at that I'll never, ever work again.
Yeah.
And
I want people to hear, men and women, because it happens to everybody. It happens to everyone, and you're not weak, you're not strong. It's none of that. Don't feel like, oh, I was taken advantage of because I'm not strong or because it happens to everyone. It happens to everyone. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. It happens to everyone. And just know that there are predators out there. There are predators. There are terrible people that are awful, nasty people. And I wish we could get rid of them, but we'll never get rid of them. But what we can do is we can plant big, deep roots that makes it more difficult for them to get away with it. And we will make those roots as deep and solid as we can, make these huge forests of rules and regulations and laws that we will come down on them hard. We will hit them where it hurts, which is their money and their reputation. And we will protect you, period.
And same thing for overseas. So some of these projects, you're shooting in Budapest, you're shooting in Portugal, you're in Australia. I've heard cases where people say it's not the right time or hour in America to do X, Y, or Z. What is your advice when people are out of the country, still shooting on SAG projects? But I've been told things on set where I'm like, it's not kosher.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's so hard. And I know it's easy to say and it's hard to do, but the most powerful thing you have is to say no.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like, easy for you to say, but
no, I've said all the no's. I want other actors to hear how much your boundary is, and that's for you to keep.
It's for you to keep.
Honor
and any agent or manager that doesn't back you is not your person.
Yes, not at all.
It's not your person. They work for you, you guys. Don't be beholden to them. They're beholden to you. Any person that takes a cut out of my check that I work, they work for me. Period. Period. Don't get it screwed up. They work for you. Period.
I love this. I'm going to do some rapid fire questions because you give so much good information. Because you've worked so much. Which role do you wish you could steal? What is on right now that you as Michelle are like, I got to spin for that?
Oh my God. I don't know if it's still, I don't think it's on now, but on BBC Happy Valley with Sarah Lancashire. Oh my God. If you guys haven't seen it, it's fantastic. She's a detective. It's so good. It's so good. It's just so good. And she's a phenomenal actress. I want that. Or like the female version of John Wick.
Oh, yes.
And they're two totally different characters, but.
I love this. Are you one to rewrite sides? Are you one to rewrite?
I'm not a big one on that. My husband is, but I'm not, he does.
Yeah.
I'm not such a big one. I actually find it a fun challenge. Like when something's not really the easiest for me, I'm
We're
like,
gonna make this work.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, that's you and I coming from our soap background where they're like, stand over there. You're like, but why?
My person I'm talking to is over here.
Okay, I'm gonna make it work because we've got
Right.
one take and we're gonna make it
Right.
work. And I hear the guys, it's always the guys that I talk to. They're like, I rewrote it. And I went in and I gave them my new set of sides. I'm like, it's the Clifton Collins of the world, the Mark Pellegrinos. There's certain great, amazing actors, and they can do it.
Girl,
They can do
girl,
it. Your husband can do it.
girl.
What's the one thing you've done that you wish more eyeballs would have seen?
Oh, I did a play over at the Shakespeare Company in Washington called The Dog in the Manger by Lope de Vega. And she was just a really cool character. I really loved it. I was on stage the entire time except for one scene. Lope de Vega is a Spanish playwright that was of the same time as Shakespeare, but he had actual female characters, actors that played in his plays, and he had relationships with his female characters. All that to say, when he wrote female characters, they were delicious and complicated and strong. And it was just it was a really a great part.
Embodied. Oh, I would have loved to have seen that. Okay. Most memorable first day experience. Which project? What made it?
That's a hard one. Stepping on set with Patrick Stewart was pretty amazing. He's
Pretty phenomenal.
he's
Yes.
pretty. I
Even
love
how
him.
you got that job has to be like,
He's
just
kind of amazing. I can't believe he's my friend. It's amazing.
okay. So favorite actor you've learned from, and you might have a
Oh.
handful.
My father, I love because he's the first person that I saw on stage, and I always think of my dad whenever I think of the work that I do. And my family, my sisters, they were before me. They're older than me, and they gave me the permission and the courage to blossom. So
Yeah. What's the one thing your dad did that you've tried to emulate or bring into your work? If it's something tangible. I mean, obviously, seeing a little girl watching her dad on stage, like nothing could be better. But is there something tangible that you watched him do?
It's the kindness and love for his castmates and the people around him.
That part. He didn't act in a void.
Yeah, he didn't act in a void. He had always had a good, kind word to every single person on his set, whether it's stage or whatever. Every person that ever worked with my father or ever knew my father always said that he always took time with them and would say a nice thing. And his legacy lives in me. I love everybody who's on my sets, and I will always take time to speak with them and know them and get to know them. And I'm grateful for every single person that works on a set. I'm only as good as they all are.
I love that. Have you watched Number One on the Call Sheet? Have you gotten to watch that yet?
No, I haven't. Everybody keeps saying that. I know.
Oh,
I'll get on it. I'm so
you.
into Korean dramas right now. That's all I ever watch it. And I know. I'm like,
What are you?
neck deep.
Okay, what are you watching?
Oh my God, I'm neck deep in them. I've already watched all the new ones that's come out, the Bon Appetit and When the Phone Rings and all that stuff. But I've watched Vincenzo, Goblin, Perfect Marriage Revenge, Married My Boyfriend, Girl, Alchemy of the Souls. Girl, it goes on. I've got like a litany. And I feel like I
love
speak Korean and I
hearing what
don't.
people are watching versus what they put out in the world. It's always so wildly different. Okay, so I'm going to go to this. Then I'll go to this last one. Best on-set prank. Are you a gamer or a pranker on sets?
I'm not feeling. No.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll witness, but I'm not normally the one.
I'm not big. I'll tell you one thing that I did do for Star Trek, though. It just happened that wasn't that I meant to do it. On our second season, there was the cast of the first season, there was a lot of people that were let go just because of third season. They brought in a lot of the iconic characters from Next Gen, so they had to let go. And because I love my first cast so much, I got into a habit of coming to on their last day to talk them up, to clap them off. And it became a thing so that everybody's last day, I came to the set, whether I was working or not, and I would speak them, say the kind words off. And so it became a whole thing that whenever a last person came, it was Michelle would come on and say it. And then the last day of my day, I was like, I didn't think about it, but I was like, oh, it's my last day. And nobody's going to hear. My last day, Jerry Ryan showed up and spoke to me on my last day. So that was kind
I
of nice.
love that. I love that so much. You have had such a brilliant career, and you're not even close to you've got 6 things, I think, in the can right now that are coming out.
Some indies, which is great.
Yes. What's coming out? What can people watch? Where can people find you? Other than definitely all the SAG stuff, but are you online? Are you on socials?
Yes, yes. I'm on Instagram, Real Michelle Hurd on Instagram. It's Michelle Hurd on, what is it, Twitter, X,
Oh,
whatever
X,
that
yeah,
stuff.
whatever that place is. Yeah.
Facebook, Blue Sky. I'm on those things. I don't
Yeah.
even know, Threads. But I've got a bunch of independent films that are coming out. Where the Wind Blows is, I think it drops on October 26th. Inheritance is out already, which is a lovely film helmed by women, which I love.
Yes.
Written, directed, produced, all women. Somewhere in Montana, some of the same producers that was of Where the Wind Blows. And in fact, the editor for Somewhere in Montana is the director for Where the Wind Blows. That's dropping as well. I'm not sure when. 25 Miles to Normal is another independent film. There's just a bunch, and just
Again, work begets work. I like that you even thread it because it is one of those things. So I always
yes,
tell every actor, you never know who's going to the next project, what's going on.
that's
And I
exactly right.
love that if you treat everybody the way your father did, you will have a
Yes.
career.
Yeah, and it's nice. There's kindness is
Yeah.
powerful, you guys. Kindness is so powerful, and it's free, and it comes back in dividends. And you never know what you can do when you walk down the street and you see someone who's having a bad day or looks sad. Just walk over and say something nice to them, and you may change their life. You may save their lives. Kindness is powerful.
Thank you for doing this. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thank you, my dear.
I
Thank you.
really do. This was lovely. You were so